really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard.
Which is what, seriously speaking, is all about.
Hello there, this is the month of March, the Women's Month. I love this month because this is when the International Women's Day happens, and it's going to be on the 8th of March. And this year, the theme is very simple: be bold for change. But for this reason, all of this month, I'll be talking to people I describe as some of the phenomenal women that exist in Nigeria who were bold enough to make a change in the professions that they chose to profess. And I'm going to be starting the conversation with somebody who, before people met her, she was a super consultant, strategist, accountant, all of the above. But after people met her, the whole idea of tax in this country began to be defined by her tenure as the chief tax officer in Nigeria. I'll take a break, and then when I return, you get to meet my first phenomenal woman on Seriously Speaking in this month of March, the International Women's Month. Don't go away. Now, what do you do when you interview somebody who's both a sister, a friend, and also a tax officer? Well, I just be me. She's laughing already. My guest today is Ifueko Omoigui Okauru. Ifueko, it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And to have you on this side. I couldn't get you to wear anything else but this, your skirt suit. I've had you wear short knicker and come here, let people see you in a different light. But it's nice to have you here, though.
Thank you.
And the reason I actually invited you, like I told you before, is because when your mother passed recently, right, that was last year now, and I was at the funeral, and then you announced that I didn't know your foundation existed, but there was this foundation that you set up, that she set up before she passed on, actually. And as I watched you bury your mother, I could see how so much like her you are, and how so much like you, your little daughter is. And I'm looking at 3 generations of women. Your mom was a phenomenal woman. And I hope you won't cry when you talk about her.
I can't promise that, but I will try.
You know, but do you agree if I say you are your mother's daughter?
Very much so.
Because she was a judge, she was in the law firm and all of that, she was in the law profession. Did she ever regret, or did you ever regret not studying law like her?
Not at all. I guess if you know my mom, she didn't start out being a lawyer.
True.
She's actually a teacher first, and perhaps a mother first, before a teacher, and then going back to study law. In fact, the reason why she studied law is another interesting story altogether. So she was preparing basically for post-retirement, and she felt that teaching wasn't going to give her a post-retirement lifestyle that she wanted, and she wanted to be able to control her income from home. And that's why she studied law. And she became a magistrate, she became a notary public, and she was very proud of that. But she always remained a teacher.
I remember in those days when you used to do, and this lady has anchored a TV show before in the past too, Another Step. They were usually in the front row, your parents.
Very true.
You know, they're always there supporting you. People didn't know, but they were always there. It was you expressing another side of yourself. Because I remember it was a function of the injustices and the inconsistencies in our society that made you decide to do another step, even though you were not a journalist. Did she in any way, encourage you to do that as well?
Well, my mother, or rather my parents, because anytime I say my mother, anything she did was always with the support of my dad. But since it's International Women's Day, I'll talk about my mom. They always gave you choices or options, helped you with your decision-making process, but they always left the decision to you to make. And when you made that decision and you involve them, they'll support you all the way. Another step was my own idea. Coming back from doing my master's in the UK, I saw that was my first time of leaving Nigeria to school. And I just couldn't believe that we couldn't move as fast as the UK was moving, or be as civilized as the UK environment. So coming back was, what are the things we need to do differently? I was in my 20s then, to make Nigeria more like the UK environment. So that was really my passion and my motivation. And so another step was, what step should we all take as individuals and organizations without depending on government to progress Nigeria?
So the question really is, if you didn't have the kind of home, now, as with the theme for this year is Be Bold for Change. I would say your mother was bold, and you have also proven to be bold. Well, how far would you say, is she an odd one in our society? Or there are many more women becoming like that?
Well, I'm sure you didn't know about my mom until she died. And you didn't really know much about who she was until we decided to bring it all out to the public. And so likewise, I truly believe that there are several people also there doing their own bits. And I believe really what we should be doing more of is celebrating them, informing people, sharing their stories. So that way we all get encouraged by it. But without any doubt, my mother was a very bold person. She would tell you how when her mother died when she was 4, her father brought her up. She actually, some would say, was more the man than the woman, wore the pants, you know. And she came from a very polygamous home, and her father, recognizing her talent and so on, wanted in a sense to encourage her. You know, she was bright in school. She was, doing very well in whatever she chose to do. So she grew up also with her grandmother, and through all that, you see the influence of a grandmother and a father in everything that she's done till she died. And even in her jottings that I'm getting to see, her father was her symbol, and her model. And everything she did, she drew strength from that.
So could I also, because again, at the end of the day, it emphasizes the fact that for two people, for success, two people have to work together, male and female.
Very much so.
So when you find that there's a husband that is not supportive, it can also affect a woman being bold and stuff like that?
Very much so. Well, I also, from my mother's experience, whereas you need two people, male and female, the male and female could come from anywhere depending on your own circumstance. So in her own case, her mother wasn't available. It was her grandmother. And on the male side was her father. Now, and of course, her stepmothers also played a role in that regard. So I believe it was, but it who says it takes a village to bring up a child? Raise a child. I think she's also a good testament of that.
That's right.
But her boldness, her courage, it was quite unique in her time. I remember speaking to her classmates who would say, Mom has not really changed. And sometimes when she's describing herself to some people, she said, look, you know what, I may shout, I may be angry, but that's just me. Take me as I am. It's just because I want you to be better, and that's why I'm the way it is. And when I'm listening to her, I'm asking myself, now, wait a minute, isn't that how I am?
Exactly, and you didn't realize how much like your mother you truly are. No, but again, you see, the foundation that you have set up in her honor, what I find interesting is that she had even set up that foundation before she passed on that, Tell me about that. Yes,
the foundation was a family idea. She had just passed through a very lucky escape. She'd been in coma. We just discovered she had a respiratory illness. Turned out to be sleep apnea, but a combination, actually at the end of the day, chronic respiratory disease. And she had been in a coma, come out, and we all thought it was a very close shave. And my father was celebrating, I think his 75th birthday or thereabouts, around the time. So we thought, let's combine both. Do a foundation in their honor and give back to the community. So it was a way of really thanking God for their lives, thanking God for all that we had gone through. And therefore we now said, okay, let's think about what do we now focus the foundation on. So Dagomo is actually an acronym for Daniel and Grace Omoigui.
Daniel is your father.
Daniel is my father, Grace is my mother, Omoigui is both their names. And so it was set up in 2009. But the idea behind what we decided to choose to start off with was my mom's. And that was to say, we're looking at, look at the society, what aspect of the community are we not giving attention to? Because we didn't want to just be like everybody else, but actually identify those areas that had not been covered. And the elderly was one. She mentioned that as she was getting older, there was really no attention to people who are getting older. It was getting more difficult. She didn't even realize herself how difficult aging would be. And when you travel out, you see that there's more, the societies encourage, there's the infrastructure to support the elderly, the way the houses are built, even going on the bus, you get a discount as an elderly. You go to get to certain places, you get special treatment. You have, geriatric centers all over the place.
So she was concerned for the old.
She was concerned for the old.
And then,
And then the dead, Because, again, looking at the Benin community, a lot of people buried at home. She was also questioning, my mom was very foresighted. She was already questioning how long will that continue to
Absolutely.
be? And that public cemeteries, are not maintained in Edo State. And if you look around, that has been a traditional issue. But we now expanded it. So for the dead is also, who cares for the mortuary attendant? Who cares when somebody dies, how the morgues are treated and how the morgues in itself are kept? Sometimes people complain that when their loved ones die, they just throw the bodies, because there's no space. And then, of course, in communities where you do not have well-maintained public cemeteries, how do we help to work with government to maintain public cemeteries and perhaps even have a private cemetery as an example of the way to go?
So the question is, this woman lives on in the foundation that she was part of setting up.
Completely.
And I think it's a good time for me to take a break because I want to return, before we ran this show, before we taped, I asked people to send in a couple of questions, and of course they were talking about tax and other stuff matters. So I will take a break and come back so I can engage some of those questions and finish the discussion I have with you
Sure.
on the Dagomo Foundation.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.